to make quills for your swivel guns or rail guns, as well as making charges. And if we have time, maybe we'll try and add in a bonus for you as well. So the first most important thing when working with quills and making charges is remembering that you're working with gunpowder. Highly explosive, highly flammable, so you want to make sure that there's no heat source or no sparks around where you're working. That's why I'm in my garage in a cool area, and you know, just being very, very careful. The other important thing to keep in mind is that you need to prepare your quills and charges ahead of time prior to going to an event, because the site organizers do not want loose gunpowder at an event. It just creates too much potential hazards and injury. So it's important to make a good amount of quills and charges ahead of time before you go to an event. So this is Siren. This is our 1-inch bore brass swivel gun that is mounted on the bow of the Psyche longboat. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the quills. So it took me a little while to finally find the right size quill to be able to put into the vent hole. Eventually, I found these 3mm sip straws that I ordered through Amazon, and they're made out of plastic, and there's 1,000 of them, which actually we cut in half. So we've got over 2,000 potential quills that should last us a long time. So that's the most important thing, is you find the right size of quill to fit into your vent hole. I first started off using or practicing with paper straws. They were too big. And eventually I thought, well, what about a cocktail sip straw? And I was able to find them. I ordered a box and they work beautifully. So this is the 3mm sip straw. You put it into the vent hole to make sure that it is of the right size to fit in there easily. You can see that it's way too long. So we're going to cut it in half. Cut it in half. Now also, we're going to cut a little V wedge at the bottom of the quill, because when the quill will be used, there'll be already the charge in here. Yes, we would pierce the charge with the rod, but still, just to be double certain, I cut a wedge on the quill so that it easily will go through the aluminum foil and get into the charge itself. So there it is, pretty simple. How do we get the powder in there? I use double-sided 1/4-inch tape, which I bought it from Uline. And actually I got 2 rolls of this. And again, this is going to last a long time. So you basically cut, I'm just going to get, here it is, the end. You measure off the length of the tape so that it goes the entire length of the quill, like so. And then I'm going to put some triple F powder on it, because this is what it's going to look like on the end when it's all finished. You can see here's the quill, here's the powder, and actually we have extra powder at the very top. So here you get some of my triple F powder. I first was using double F, and it was a bit challenging to work with it. Now again, we're working with black powder. It's important that you keep everything secure and safe. So I have my powder magazines. Double check, yeah. Triple F black powder. I'm going to pour a little bit. Well, this is a new canister. I'm going to pour a small amount, just like in a little plastic tray. Put the cap back on. I'm just raising this up so you can see. I'm just going to take the double-sided tape that still has backing on one side of it and just coat the bottom side with the powder. Like so. So you can see there's some gunpowder, some black powder on the bottom side of the tape. Take that, and we're going to fold it in half to make it more easily insertable inside the plastic sip straw. So then here's the sip straw. Insert it and just gently push it all the way to the opposite end. You still want to have powder exposed at the bottom so that when it goes into the charge, the pierced charge, it'll ignite. So we're almost done. Now what we need to do, and I'll show you again on the finished quill, is I want to put extra powder at the very top so it's quick to ignite. And that's from experience. So again, taking a piece of double-sided tape, maybe about 1 inch long. Take your little tray of black powder. Coat it well. Now this is actually the trickiest part, is removing the tape on the back side of the backing off the tape, off the 1/4 inch tape. So, and of course I cut my nails today, go figure. Because you basically want, oh, there we go, got it, almost. Gunner's having challenges. Ah, there we go. Yeah. So there you go. There's the 2 pieces. And then you just roll this around the top end of your quill. And there you go. Finished quill. I think that took, what, maybe 1 minute or 2? So if you have enough volunteers with you to help make the quills, you could make a huge amount of them for the entire season in one sitting. So there's the finished quill. So those are the quills. Let me put things away here before I start working on the charges. So for the charges, this is what we use for Siren. It's 3 layers of aluminum tin foil wrapped around a mold, and then with about 3/4 to 1 ounce of black powder. We'll go through each different step of how to make that. So using good, heavy, thick aluminum foil. What I created as myself is, again, another template, charge template. This is 3 1/4 inch by 6.5 inch. And I just put it against the length of the aluminum foil. I'm just going to cut a strip, length widthwise. Now you don't really need to see. Okay, so I just cut it. So there's the tin foil. There's my template. And I'm going to fold this into thirds because it's important that it's thick enough to give it a good form And it's important, you know, we use aluminum foil because it's more water resistant than using paper. And then using my form, my mold right here, with the open edge at the top, I'm just going to roll this up against my table here, nice and tight. So it looks like this. And then form it really, really tight. And then where the seam is on the aluminum foil, that's where I'm going to press in first. So that again, it creates a nice, solid, secure seal. And then even bang it on the table. To double check to make sure that it's going to be the right size, I'm turning the muzzle of the siren towards you. I just double check to make sure that it fits in. Make sure you hold on to the charge, because sometimes you might pull out the mold and the charge would fall in. So that fits in. And there we go. So I've got some other ones that I've also pre-made. Now it's time to fill them up. So using some double F powder, or you could use, if you want to be more authentic, some single F powder. Using a funnel, holding your charge, and then you fill it. Now, I know I'm not using a precise measure, but it's basically from experience. Here I got a little bit too much. You want to leave enough space at the top so that when you make it into a big Hershey's Kiss is really in effect. You fold again, pressing in where the seam of the aluminum foil is, and then just gently twist it. And there you go. There's your Hershey's Kiss. It fits in snugly into the barrel. Perfect. Again, if you have 2 or 3, 4 people, you know, you've got your gunner's mates who want to learn. All right, let's get together on a Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, or an evening. Let's make these outside. And there you go. You'd have all of your powder made that you require for the whole season. Because this is the propellant to shoot, if we're allowed to shoot anything out of our guns, this is the propellant. The quill is the igniter, but how do we do everything? How do we ignite the quill? So that'll be the surprise. I'm actually going to show you how to make slow matches. Don't blink, because it's really fast and easy. Just put things away. So the main equipment for making a slow match is cotton roping. Actually, this is sash cord. I had extra sash cord. I said, well, why not use that? The main ingredient you need is potassium nitrate or saltpeter. Where in tarnation do you buy saltpeter these days? It can be a challenge. In the past, you'd be able to buy it at the drugstore. Not anymore. But I actually found a company here in Mississauga. It's called Alpha Chem. And I was able to buy 500 grams of it for about $15. How much do we need? In this tub, there's 4 cups of water and 3 tablespoons or 45 milliliters of the potassium nitrate. That's all the quantity you need to make your slow match. And also the thing is you can reuse that liquid. So what I do is I take my slow match, I put it into the solution of water and potassium nitrate, leaving it overnight, all unwound. Then the next morning, I take it out, and then I just string it horizontally until it's fully dried. You want to do it horizontally compared to vertically, because if you did it vertically, all the water and all the potassium nitrate will drip down. And so you got a great amount of potassium nitrate at the bottom and very little at the top. That's why it's important to let it dry horizontally. So again, I made this just in one batch, and we probably have enough slow match here for at least maybe 1 or 2 seasons easily. It does have an interesting smell when you ignite it, because you do smell the potassium nitrate. Some reenactment groups actually use a little bit of food coloring or dye in the mixture, in the solution, so that they know that, yes, this slow match has been treated. I like leaving it plain natural because that's how it was back then. Now, what I'm also going to do is my talking notes, I'm going to post them onto both the HMS Psyche's boat cruise and the Society's Facebook group page, so that you can refer to them at a future time and date. Okay, that's pretty much it. I don't know how much time I used. Oh, it's 7:47, so wow, 17 minutes. Not that long. Ryan, what questions popped up? Because I saw some text that appeared there at the bottom.
Yeah, great job, Gurth. It looks like we overcame all the technical issues, so I'll just try to read through some of the commentary here for your benefit as well as for the group. Lieutenant Mitchenfeller told us that Scotch tape works just as well as the double-sided tape. And another comment from Captain Schifferdecker is to put the tape on the quill first and then roll it in the powder. I think you did it the other way.
It can be. It all depends if you have a funnel small enough to be able to put the powder down into the quill. Yeah, it's whatever works best for each individual person.
For sure. There was one question about whether the cartridges need to be an exact fit for the bore. We got another great response from Brian about having them try to fit as close as possible. If they're too small, they'll get really compacted and misshapen when they get rammed down.
Yeah, it's important that I personally find that the charge be snug as you put it down the barrel, because yes, you'll be using your rammer to ram it all the way down. And then when you'll be using your vent prick, you want to make sure that the charge is right there at the vent prick as compared to, oh shoot, I think I pricked it, but I'm not certain. You want to feel that, not restriction, but what would be the right word?
You want a positive penetration.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's a great point. The other thing I might suggest is if it doesn't fit snugly, it could actually become a projectile.
Yeah.
And then my question for you, it was a little difficult to see the potassium nitrate bottle, the label on it. Is there a way you can put it up closer to the screen so we can see
How's
what
that?
the label looks like? Oh, okay, it's like
Alpha Chem Limited. I'll post the information, their telephone number, on the Facebook group pages.
I understand.
And yeah, I just called them up and said what I needed it for, and they said, okay, yeah, come pick it up. Pay in cash. There you go.
Cool.
So they supply chemicals for different companies. Yeah.
And just got another question. Is the cartridge form a standard dowel diameter, or did you have to cut it down?
Actually, this dowel, that was originally the plunger for an apple corer. So, yes, I had to modify it to fit the size of the barrel mouth. So it's, again, every person's gun is a little bit different. That's why you're going to need to modify or create pieces of equipment specifically for your gun.
I know that when I did my my musket dowel form, I just got a 3/4 inch dowel, and it works just fine. Of course, we're not throwing anything down the barrel, but it's nice to have something close or smaller to the muzzle diameter so that the powder slides down nicely.
And also, just going back to the question regarding should the charge be snug as you insert it into the barrel, And then when you ram it down, yes, you want it to be as snug as possible. Reason why? So you get a louder boom.
Of course.
Because that's what we all like, and that's what the public likes to hear.
Absolutely. I've got a question here about the diameter of siren.
Okay. What is it?
What is the diameter of the bore?
Let me measure it.
You know what the answer is.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to make sure. It is 1 inch.
There you go, 1 inch diameter bore.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions?
That was it for chat questions. What I'll do right now is I'm going to unmute everybody and just give you a chance to say hi, and if any other questions come up.
Just before you do that, Ryan. So our next virtual training session will be 2 weeks today, and where we're going to go, I will be going through the procedures of cleaning, loading, and firing siren. Now, actually, I won't be firing it in my backyard because I'm sure my neighbors wouldn't be too happy. But also doing misfire drill. You know, what do you do when it does not go off? It's something that every gunner should be prepared in case that occurs. So that's what we'll be doing as virtual training in 2 weeks. It's important we believe for HMS Psyche that all of our boat crew are knowledgeable in different aspects of the boat, so that in case of emergency or someone is not able to be there, there's someone else who is knowledgeable and experienced in doing the different aspects of the boat.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Gurth. And like I said, I'll just open it up to everybody now. Say hi and unleash any other questions that you might have been a little timid to ask in the chat. And just before I do that, check out our YouTube channel, HMS Psyche. You'll find a great video of Gurth in the first person, because he's got a GoPro strapped to his face, firing the cannon and then landing redcoats. So I always say he's an action hero because he's got this great video from the Niagara Grand Tactical last year. So
and also at that Grand Tactical, there's a video of seeing the shore battery firing at us.
They missed, of course.
They missed. Good thing.
Oh, I heard
welcome everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Good. Everyone's doing well in these challenging times.
Nice to see everyone.
Yeah. Gurth, by the way, nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a nice night out.
We had hoped May 25th to have the Beat to Quarters training session at Fort York, but well, that got canceled because of COVID-19. So okay, this is another way that we can share information with everyone. And as Ryan said, the link to the video will be posted both on the Facebook group page. I guess you'll put it on YouTube, Ryan?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
So this is going to be posted onto YouTube after we're all done here?
Yep, if we're all okay with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I better be careful what I say then.
Oh, nice sweatshirt.
Oh, yes.
Hey, baby. Now I'm curious, is Claire there?
I don't see her.
Oh, okay. Well, we had about a dozen people who confirmed that they were planning to participate, so I'm quite happy.
Okay.
So we'll be putting out more information regarding the next one in 2 weeks. Basically, we have training sessions like this planned until, I think, late June.
Awesome.
All sorts of different themes, even going to the social aspect. So, should be good.
So
Okay, then.
one thing to consider, if I may, for a moment, being
Certainly.
Grand Poobah and all of that stuff. Recently, Crown Forces was looking to the individual units within the Crown Forces umbrella to agree to their standing orders, which included rules of engagement, et cetera, right down to the point where we're supposed to conform to the standards as established by Parks Canada for black powder operation. So therefore, I asked the question, if we're preparing grounds for a muzzle-loading cannon, how close are we to their standards? Are we conforming to their standards?
Well, I did some research on that perspective, Commodore, and most of all of our guns are not to the standards, say, of a 3 or 6 pounder, because they're only 1-inch bore.
Right.
So in effect, they consider this as being a large musket or a blunderbuss.
Right.
Yeah, that's what the assumption I've been under too.
Yeah, and of course, there's you probably have all heard howling associated with the most recent the federal restriction on firearms. Some of you may have howled yourself. I know I've done a little howling. And of course, 20 millimeters translates to, what is that, about 0.78 of an inch? At the moment, 20 millimeters and up are prohibited.
So I looked into this in regards to muskets and other instruments of our particular choice, and the regulation section 95 says firearms with a bore diameter of 20 millimeters. Well, you look at the definition of firearms in the Act itself, and it excludes muskets and cannons and things like that.
Yes, it's true that the muskets, flintlock muskets and matchlock muskets and muzzle-loading cannon that are ignited the way we do that are exempt from a significant amount of the firearms laws, particularly with respect to requiring a license. On the other hand, you are still required to declare them at the border as firearms. So, there's one department of the federal government that still considers them firearms, and you have to talk to them when you pass by them. And then you got another part of the government that says, well, they're firearms, but they're not firearms. So
I carry a sheet of paper I got from my local government that says that they're not a firearm. So that
how current Brian, is the document? Because as of this week, we've got another set of documentation which apparently is not clear. My understanding, in fact, is that one of the items that's actually on the list of prohibited firearms now actually is an airsoft. So I mean, there's been some confusion as to the definitions, and I don't want to get into the business of whether our toys are going to be allowed to be used or not, because I think you're absolutely right in that regard. I think that ultimately the government is going to decide, oh yeah, these things are not really firearms, unless of course you have to pay taxes or something on them, because that's the way our government works. But however, I think there's some concerns here, and I just want to be aware of that. Mostly, I'm still interested in the do we conform to Parks Canada regulations with respect to the operation of these things, how we prepare our ammunition, and in that regard, I'm just concerned that we conform to those requirements up to a point, because they also have some requirements with respect to firing a field gun or firing a gun from a parapet. And of course, we're in the tight confines of a boat most of the time, in which case we cannot conform. But then, of course, I've always argued that once we're offshore, we're in the private domain.
That's right. We're not in Parks Canada property, unless we're in a national marine park. Yeah.
But as soon as we come
I think
ashore,
that would be a good thing to do some research and even discussing with, say, someone at Fort George to verify.
right?
Just for our own knowledge, and then sharing that amongst all the various different boat crews.
We are fortunate in that right now, of course, there's virtually no events going on. So there's no real circumstance, an immediate one, where we're likely to run afoul of the new legislation or rather the interpretation of the new legislation by the arresting officer, if you know what I mean. Because it is a state of confusion right now. But I doubt right now, actually, whether anybody at Parks Canada can give you a definitive answer on a lot of the questions that I'm just posing. And I'm just posing it to the group. One of the things that I've done in my talking with Brigadier General Greg Williams of Crown Forces is that, yeah, we would like to conform to the regulations as you've established. We want to be a part of Crown Forces. The problem, of course, is that we have unique circumstances, and sometimes these things will interfere with our ability to conform to Parks Canada regs. Does that mean that we have to be a completely separate entity? Then you get into the business of, if there's somebody in an event that doesn't conform to Crown Forces regulations, standing orders on safety, does not conform to Parks Canada regulations, are they even allowed to play? Or are we even allowed to play? If you know what I'm getting at. These are not necessarily problems, but they're potential problems. We are unique. We have special circumstances. I just wanted to know how closely what we're doing right here tonight, which, by the way, I'm very much in favor of, is going to conform to Parks Canada, which the Crown Forces have established is their minimum criteria. That's all.
We point, and I think it's incumbent on all of us to do a little bit of research on that and the recent regulations, just to satisfy ourselves that we can conform to the extent possible. But as a naval establishment, sir, might I suggest that we try to create an addendum to the standing orders or something to that effect that recognizes the unique conditions of boats.
Yeah, and again, most of us, like if we participate in, like we take our guns ashore, our guns are used as field pieces, and we do get inspected by the authorities at the sites, you know, to make sure that we are operating those guns in a safe manner. And much the same way, if we take the best practices from something like that and move those on board the ship, yes, there are some slight modifications we have to make, because obviously, you know, you can't have your magazine, you know, like X number of meters behind your gun, because that's just not going to happen on the boat. But there are different ways that we can make sure that that magazine is protected and things like that, like with a wet rag over top of it, and make sure it's always closed before the gun's fired and things like that, which are, like, again, like you said, addendums that we could make, or small things that we could change to have things that we do have something in place. So if somebody does ask, we can say, hey, these are things that we're looking at, or these are things that we are proactively doing to make sure that we are safe and not endangering anything.
Perhaps one thing we should consider as the Naval Establishment is, at events, there being a designated safety officer who does go and check each gun aboard the boat with their gunner,
That
and to
would be
make
me.
sure that the guns as well as the tools are safe and secure. Because I think, Tom, you might remember when the Battle of Lake Erie reenactment event, when they were playing the War of 1812 Overture, and unfortunately a spark fell into a cartridge box aboard not a reenacting boat, but yeah, the charges blew up in the man's face. And even for myself, last year at the Grand Tactical, my sponge broke inside the barrel. So fortunately, I was able to use my worm and extract it. But again, guns and tools should be verified and inspected if there is a designated safety officer.
Now,
Just a double check.
I work with the land-based forces. So with Matt Pantera right now, who controls the land-based guns, and I'm looking at controlling the water-based guns and that right now for him. So that's where we're at for dividing that, I guess, oversight, I guess. So I will have to get more proactive in maybe getting some deputies to help me out in events that I cannot attend. And then I can look at some people that I trust, and those will be the people that we designate maybe that will go around if if they're the one at the event, they're the go around and make sure that everyone is participating in a safe and conscientious manner.
Super idea. I think Bryce wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say that I work out at Fort Edmonton Park here in the middle of the prairies here. So we do a lot of fur trade stuff. And what happened recently is Fort Edmonton wanted to move towards Parks Canada. I'm also part of a reenactors group called the Edmonton House Brigade. And they didn't really want to conform with Parks Canada storage because they do multiple campouts. We got an addendum in the Fort Edmonton Parks corporate policies to exclude, to make a very big difference between following Parks Canada regulations for the staff and those who volunteer as outside contractors, which is what the reenactors group do. So we're able to sort of bring 4 pounds of powder per man because we camp out for 6 days. Whereas if it was Fort Edmonton, it would be, you know, if I was on staff with them, it would be 2 shots in my bag, and the rest is locked up in a magazine somewhere. So there are ways to, I suppose if you talk to the site, if you're really familiar with their staff, you can work those exclusions out a little bit.
Yeah, it's all about communication.
Yeah.
Communication so that no one is surprised or no misunderstandings occur. You know, it's best to be open and discuss it prior to the fact as compared to there being a big kerfuffle created.
Yeah.
And then suddenly no more boats with guns allowed at the event.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point, Bryce. And it's great to have you participating. All the way
Yeah,
out
thank you.
From Alberta.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Today I got the confirmation order. I've just purchased a swivel gun from Lion's Den.
Oh, super.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully soon in the next, once Fort Edmonton Park, with all the COVID right now, it doesn't matter, but Fort Edmonton's been under a 2-year closure for renovations.
Oh,
So
wow.
hopefully in the next year or so when I get back there, we'll have a swivel gun on a York boat.
That's cool.
Great way to get those beavers.
Oh yeah.
Or Canadian alligators, if you
Yeah.
if you've heard that story.
Well, in our case, it's mostly the damn jet skis on the North Saskatchewan.
Oh, yeah.
Pirates
We have
on
the
the
same problem.
Saskatchewan.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Sea mosquitoes.
Not virtually. Let's get together at a pub and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments? Because
I have
see
a comment.
Okay.
Hey, Johnny.
Was the dowel you used for the cartridge mold,
Yep.
if you drill a hole down through the center of it, then when you go to remove the cartridge, you don't, there's no vacuum there. And the other thing is, what I do is I always I have a little container for whatever gun I'm using that is already has a pre-measured level in it, that so when I'm loading cartridges, it's a lot quicker.
No, it's a good point.
The old 35 millimeter film canister.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the gun.
Yeah.
The
Depends on the gun.
size.
Exactly.
So Gurth, powder obviously isn't cheap. Is there a way we could be a bit more precise in measuring it?
Yes, definitely.
But it's less fun for you, right?
Well, it's less fun for everyone in the boat. Like suddenly they hear a louder boom, like, oh, what happened now? Oh, that was Big Betty. Yeah, no, I try to be, I will become more accurate. I'll make sure I do it before I get my grog ration.
Yeah.
Would a scale be helpful?
It's usually by volume rather than weight.
Yeah.
When I
We
do
did-
muskets, I've got a little adjustable tube.
Yes.
Yeah.
I fill the tube and then I fill the cartridge.
We do the same thing with a pre-measured piece of copper that we've actually a copper pipe that we've cut to length and soldered on a cap on one end, and then we've just cut that down to the correct length where we get the correct powder measure in that. So, and the thing with the copper is we have a grounded glove that we use too. When you're hanging onto the copper, there's no spark. So.
Yes, using non-ferrous materials in your measuring and pouring and all of that is very important.
See, I have my old measure
They have-
for my musket. I'll see how much that holds so that then I could use that, because basically you fill up the top, you turn it around, and then you pour it right into the charge. So
Yeah. Great.
I
idea.
can
What is the
experiment with
normal
that.
powder charge for Siren?
What I've done is I've used the musket measures to get whatever I calculated is the charge for the gun I'm using. And then once I get to the amount, just using the musket measure, it may be 3 or 4 times the size of it or whatever it is. And then that's when I mark off my non-static container that I hold the powder in before I dump it into the cartridge. And once it's measured, you just have to keep filling that that one measure you've created for that particular gun.
From my days of the Royal George, I have here some measures. For their 3-pounder, they used to put 4 ounces of powder. And for their 1-pound gun or swivel gun, they put 1 1/4 ounce.
Did you know powder's more expensive than caviar per pound?
Question
And just
here.
as salty.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bryce.
I was going through one of my documents. You guys probably have it here. The Naval Standards of the Light Battalion Association of Ontario.
Yep.
I was going through that, and it says 215 grains of 1F. I've never worked with 1F before. I barely work with 2. So my question is should I do a lessened powder charge
Yes.
for converting over to 2F?
The finer you go, the less powder you're going to need for the same bang. Also,
Yeah.
it will burn a lot faster as you get finer and finer. As you
Mhm.
get finer and finer, it approaches the speed of smokeless powder almost. So that's what you want to be careful of. That's why 3F we only use for our quills, and generally, like our gun only uses 1F for the cannon.
Yeah,
So-
it
Where do you guys
expands
get your-
faster as you get to a finer powder.
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of the black powder small arms, so like flintlocks and all that kind of stuff. It's just I've never worked with cannon before.
Yeah.
So is there a conversion or bit of math I can do to reduce it so that I don't blow up the gun or myself?
Start with half and work your way up.
One of the problems with your gun is you don't want your cartridge to be shorter than the diameter of your barrel.
Yeah.
Because if it is, it can tumble inside, and if you get the wrong end down when you've rammed, you won't be able to put your quill through it.
Yeah.
Because there'll be a whole chunk of aluminum foil there, and there'll be no powder.
That's why it's important on your charge to have that nice flat bottom. So when you ram it down, it'll sit nicely all the way down past the vent. And it's an easy way of, as I say, creating it like a Hershey's Kiss. There's your handle. You always
Yeah.
know handle in from the top.
Yeah. Pointy end out.
Yes.
Take
All right.
somebody's eye out.
Yeah.
That's our time. If you want, we can continue to chat, or we can go back to our evening activities.
Yeah, I guess so there is no sort of deconversion down to from 1 to 2, or unless you guys can help me out and try to figure out where I can find some 1F.
Brian, do you
Now-
think Matt would know?
Matt should know where there's Matt Pintera will know where there's 1F, but you don't have any source of 1F out there?
Not really, because the city of Edmonton has been buying all my stuff from Cabela's for me.
Oh, okay. But check with Cabela's even in their catalog if they might have 1F.
Yeah, I used to work for them, and they've never carried
No.
1F. They're like, "What are you
No.
going to use with 2F?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to have some fun."
Yeah, okay. There are a couple, I know, gun places in Ontario that definitely sell 1F and some of it we even get from the reservations and that, but we can check around here if you need, and we can probably try shipping something out. I
Yeah.
usually end up buying it by the 25 pound bag, so
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
don't let your
I'll
wife
throw
know
that
you
in.
got that in the house.
Oh, she knows.
Well, there's,
Oh,
there's
she knows.
regulations
She
again
knows.
for safe storage, right? So
She's the one who
understand
bought
the
me the cannon.
Explosives Act.
Yeah, that's the
That's why I
problem. You have
keep
to
all my
divide that up.
gunpowder in the garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you divide all that up right away when you get it to whatever different units, or like we have several gunners, and we distribute it. Like Charles will have some, and I'll have some, and Mark Adam will have some, and there's a few gunners that will all have some of the powder, and so it's distributed right away when we do it that way. But it's much cheaper to buy it in like the 25-pound bag or so.
Yeah, there's some Civil War guys at Airdrie who do a lot of. They're the only ones in Alberta who are using like 6-pounders and Napoleons kind of a thing. So they might have a contact. I forgot about
They
them too.
must, because I can't see them using the more, because the finer you get to, the more expensive that gunpowder is.
Yeah.
Hence why Ryan told me, Gurth, ration your powder.
We can send you a pound if you need one, okay, Gurth?
Well, the triple F lasts a long time
Oh,
for doing
yeah.
quills.
Yeah.
The double F
lasts-
goes a little bit faster. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you very much for everyone joining in. We'll send out details for the next training session in 2 weeks, which will be loading, firing, and misfire drill for swivel guns.
And I
Okay,
might
take
have
care,
mine to show
everyone.
off.
Yay!
Thank you.
And hey, dress
Okay.
up for the occasion. We don't have that many opportunities, so
Sorry.
it's okay.
All
All right,
Thank
take
you
care,
very
everyone.
much,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Have
Cheers.
a great evening. Stay safe and maintain a positive psyche.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, very well done. Oh, leaving.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Night, guys.
Good
Night,
night.
Lyndon.